I'm here this afternoon in Fredericksburg, Texas, with my good friend Matt Long. Man, it's been a while. We're living in a different world than the last time we saw one another. Okay, give me the pulse of what the heartbeat. What's happening in Fredericksburg? What's the reaction to, let's say, the COVID and the mask? And I just had lunch over at a very popular restaurant, and everyone in there looked like a masked bandit. And I was the only one without a mask, and nothing was said. Even the police officer right behind me, he didn't say a thing.
Right.
So, man, it's a different world. Tell me.
Well, I have to tell you, in Fredericksburg right now, I think there are so many angry people. I think the majority of Fredericksburgians, of Hill Country folks, have had it. They have had it.
I was really surprised though that was one really big difference I can comment on, because I've been at several restaurants and all. The one I was just at, full to capacity. Everybody was masked. And really in a lot of restaurants, you see people walking around without masks to some degree because they're eating and they run to the restroom or whatever. But everyone, every moment they weren't at their table. I was shocked.
You would probably get a different view if you went to a restaurant on Tuesday night or Wednesday night in Fredericksburg. You came on a Saturday, so we have all kinds of visitors.
Yeah, we got the tourists.
Tons of visitors, tons of tourists, and so those, for the most part, coming from Houston and San Antonio and Austin and what have you, are used to much more stringent enforcement. Our county sheriff very clearly said publicly that he's not going to enforce any of these.
Good. It's unconstitutional.
Right, and our city police, I haven't heard any open statements. However, at the very beginning, very beginning, when all of this started, there were 4 businesses in town that said, we're not closing, period, end of discussion.
Good.
We're not going to close. 3 of those businesses were owned by one person, the 4th one owned by a second person. I spoke to them about this, and I said, well, what were the repercussions? What happened? During that first week they stayed open, a police officer went by, a city police officer went by both of them, and basically said, you know you're in violation. Yes, we know. Okay, just letting you know. And then they left. There has never been a follow-up. There's never been any tickets issued. Nobody's done anything. And so even though our police department, city police, I haven't heard anything about them making a statement. Our sheriff's not going to enforce anything. And he basically said, I'm not going to waste my deputy's time. He didn't even mention the constitutionality of it. He just said, my deputy's got better things to do. We're not going to run around the county, making sure everybody wears a mask. And so I think our local officials, for the most part, they're putting out the orders like everybody else is, but there's not any visible enforcement. And I know enough people in this town that if someone was getting harassed walking down the street or something,
you'd hear about it.
I would have known about it.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we've had any arrests or any tickets or anything. I know that one of the things that bothers me is that the big flashing signs as you drive into town say, you have to wear. They don't really tell the whole truth about the mask ordinance.
Right.
They just says, masks required in public spaces. Well, they don't go into the nuance of that, which is if you can space out openly, then you don't need a mask if you're not outside. But they've kind of got it. You have to wear a mask, period, on the signs that are flashing. And obviously, you can't put all the sub-paragraphs on a flashing sign.
No, because they're not going to they can't stop and read it that long.
Exactly.
I think it's interesting, though, that as soon as that came out, Briscoe Cain, one of our state representatives out of Deer Valley, posted on Facebook that if anyone was arrested or fined the $250 fine, that he would personally represent them for free, because it's not constitutional. It would not stand up in court.
Yeah, I have already been in contact with several attorneys in the state that said, yeah, if you hear anybody getting any, oh yeah, we're there. Pro bono, we're there.
Yeah.
And I've even told business owners that, listen, If you want to fight this, don't worry about it. You're not going to be alone.
Yeah.
The biggest deal was the wineries. They were starting to get really upset. And you had that 51% rule that has to do with the amount of food you serve and all of that.
Yeah.
And so that rule has always been quite vague, and it's based on how much money you spend. So you can have expensive booze and cheap food,
Yes, right.
and you sell more booze, or you can have cheap booze and expensive food. And so there's been some requests to clarify that. I know
point.
someone about 2 weeks ago from the winery people through a third party asked me for my advice. They said, Matt, what would you do? And I said, if I opened a winery right now, and I know you have to, there's, DABC, you get licenses and
Yeah.
all that. At this point in time, I would say open. Just open. Just open. And like I said, there's going to be lawyers there that are ready to back you up. The only, I've heard of suspensions. We had one bar in town that decided to stay open. Their license was suspended,
Oh,
not canceled or revoked.
yeah.
However, and I am fairly certain that bar owner opened back up the next day with a suspended license. Now, I don't know that for sure,
Yeah.
but I think that is what happened. And so the winery people had a meeting last week, and I haven't had a chance to visit with any of them. It was last Thursday, I believe, of where the wine owners, they have a group,
Coalition,
a coalition
association.
of winery owners. They met last week and came out of their meeting deciding they're all going to open up.
You see all the wine touring buses. Yeah,
Yes.
they're back in business. So it's, a town that truly, I guess your number one industry is tourism here.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a
And
doubt.
I don't even begin to know the ratio, but what a difference between a Tuesday, Wednesday in this town and Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
it's just a whole nother world. And but even during the week, y'all hold, for those that come for a longer stay, and the impact between the food, the restaurants, the wine. That's a huge industry here. It's got to have impacted a lot of different areas. The hot dollars, the hotel occupancy tax,
yeah.
all of that has got to be greatly impacted, and therefore going to affect your city and county budgets too.
Oh, without a doubt. And everybody knows this. I'm not revealing anything new, but you close down the wineries and people don't come, which means they're going to cancel their reservations at the B&B, which means the people who clean the B&Bs
Yeah.
don't have work,
Yep.
which means, and so, this is, I'm not, revealing any new secrets here, but this whole thing from the top down, the impact just multiplies at every stage.
Yes, it does.
And so that is, it's very, very frustrating. And I want to be real clear, when this first happened, and I have talked, I don't know, hundreds of people, I've had this discussion. When they first came out in whatever it was, late January, February, whatever it was, March, whatever,
Yeah,
that early,
really March.
Yeah, early March, that very, very beginning, when we got that order, we're going to close down for 30 days. We were told there were going to be millions of 2 million people are going to die.
Yeah.
2 million people
Yeah.
are going to die. That's what they told us. They said 2 million people are going to die. And I'm telling you, with almost no exceptions, every conservative constitutional believer, every one of these really strong conservatives said, hey, I'm good for 30 days. We'll do this.
Yeah.
We will. We don't want bodies piling up in March.
But it
We don't.
wasn't true.
And so at 30 days, we all said, we will, all right, we'll give you 30 days. I'm not going to raise a ruckus. I was very clear about that on my radio program. Listen, I'm not going to fuss. I know it's wrong. You and I, we all know, we have this conversation. There's no asterisk in the Constitution that says, the right to
case of a pandemic.
peaceably assemble, the little asterisk, and at the bottom it says, unless a whole lot of people get sick. We all know that, but we were willing for 30 days.
Yeah.
We were willing and cooperative, and we sat back. Now, at the end of 30 days, several things should have happened, and this is also from many conversations. Governor Abbott, at the end of 30 days, during that first 30 days, should have called a session. Without a
Yes,
doubt. There,
yes.
absolutely, there is no, I can't find anybody that says, oh, he can just, ad infinitum keep, extending the emergency period.
Yeah.
We gave them all that grace for 30 days.
Yeah.
During that time, they could have called together a session. They could have done it. God, they could have done it with Zoom. We're all doing it with Zoom. They could have brought them into the Capitol with all the precautions, all of that. And so since that didn't happen, so after that 30 days, I think I was ruined. I had a little bit more grace left. I had a little bit more
just
grace.
a little.
I had some. After the first 30 days, I said, all right, let's see what happens. And now we're in the 151st day
Oh, my.
of the flattening the curve in 15 days. We're 151 days since they told us
Wow.
we need 15 days to flatten the curve.
Wow, wow.
So it is the frustration on the level of businesses and people that are
Yeah.
not going to be able to open up. My business was already in pain, and we had already pretty much decided before this hit that I was going to give it to the end of 2020, because I know I'll be gone for the next legislative session in 21, and so we were pretty much ready to go ahead and close down. But this really forced me to give up a business, give up what I've been doing since
Oh, my.
1991. And
Wow.
The saddest part about that is since 1991, I've been trying to work towards the perfect shop,
Yeah.
with every tool and with all the space and with every,
Yeah.
I got that 3 years ago. So here I am, I'm 4th year into finally having
Oh, wow.
everything, and I really don't have a choice. I don't have a choice. And
your
so
work, for those that don't know, your work was what?
I do custom woodworking.
Okay.
And
Cabinetry and things?
some cabinetry, but very, very custom woodworking, one-of-a-kind custom stuff.
Okay.
Custom conference tables, just custom furnishings, outdoor furnishings.
Really?
So custom furniture, all kinds of.
I didn't know you had that aspect. I always thought more along cabinetry and stuff.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, cabinets are like, they're the last thing I want to do, but all
Installing them is the pits.
Installing them is which is exactly what I'm doing today at my house. But no,
Finally, the
that's-
wife got her cabinets.
Yes, she did. But right before I go out of business, my wife gets the cabinets. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's we're going to have a lot of people going out of business. We're going to have, I guess, the bright side of it is there's probably going to be some opportunities for people to open up new businesses. I mean, on that bright side of that is the dark side of that meant someone lost everything.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
And so it's kind of a good news, bad news thing. And I'm proud of the winery owners finally saying, we've had it, we're
Yeah.
all going to open up. I believe they even put I think they even fixed them up a legal fund. And so
Interesting.
they have set that up, and so they're ready, the wineries are ready to unite and fight this overreach.
Well, it's interesting too because we've got two dialogues going on. We have the one that's coming from DC with Fauci and Birx telling us, all this stuff, but yet at the local, where the truth meets the pavement, we've got Senator Bob Hall and interviewing and talking with the local doctors on the front lines, and they're going, wait a minute. What they're saying to us isn't correct, but what we're doing on the front lines with hydroxychloroquine and zinc and all of this and Z-Pak is working, and people aren't even having to go to the hospital. I know in San Angelo, our city is set on the mindset of Fauci and Birx, and they send you home, tell you to take Tylenol till you're sick enough to be hospitalized, and if you make it all the way to the ICU, they don't expect you to come out of there.
Right, yeah.
And my gosh, how did we get to that kind of mindset for our medical community? And that's very disturbing.
Yeah, there's going to be, there needs to be a whole lot of reflection when we get through this.
Yeah.
We need to not just go on to the next tragedy or the next, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
We need to really, really focus on looking back on this. And
And I wonder if we can even actually get accurate records, because I know and have been told, as well as have seen from close relationships, that even if you have COPD and you're hospitalized, you're automatically listed as COVID.
Right.
Anything respiratory. And the doctors that worked in that field initially were doing videos saying, hey, you know, this is a farce. And those videos were removed immediately.
I know.
Ugh.
I think the world is upside down right now.
Yeah.
And I think what it's going to take is it's going to take the conviction of our beliefs and our willingness to behave on what we truly believe. That's what it's going to take. And we should be taking a lesson from the left right now. And the left, I want to separate the Antifa, BLM, the trouble causers.
Yeah.
Let's remove them from the picture for this discussion, and let's just say, all right, let's take a look at the peaceful protesters, those who really honestly believe that our policemen are going after and killing black men. They really believe this. This core, this younger group, they've been indoctrinated. They
Yes.
really honestly believe it. They're not just, we know they're misinformed, but to them it is a truth with a capital T. And
That's the principle they operate off
and
of.
so what are they doing with that truth? They are showing no fear.
Yeah.
They are showing no fear. They're
Yeah.
going out and they're defending what they believe to be the truth. Now, I've been doing this Tea Party stuff now for 10 years, almost 11 now. Full-time for 7 years. So I haven't been in it full-time for all the 11, but it's been almost a full-time job for me now for this last 7 years. Everyone we talk to, everybody on our side, the conservatives, the people in the meeting, the people that listen to me on the radio program, everybody, we believe in the Constitution. Those amendments to the Constitution, we believe in the right to bear arms. We believe in the right to peaceably assemble. We believe in this and we believe in that. You know, we had an Open Texas rally in Bernie about 6 weeks ago, and there were like 30 people that showed up. 30 people showed up. And we got yelled at as cars that went by. We got yelled and screamed at and called crazy names. 30 people showed up for that. And now I'm seeing, and I read this article to you, it just came out on Friday on the Texan.news. Can I put in a pitch for them?
Yeah.
You can edit it out if you want to.
No, I'm okay.
The Texan.news, and I'm sure y'all will follow this up as well with this story, but the House of Representatives in Texas was given a survey with, I believe, over 38 questions on it, asking them about January. Now, January 12th is when the next session of the Texas legislature starts. We only meet for 140 days every 2 years. Some of us would wish we would only meet 2 days every 140 years. But it's every 2 years for 140 days. The discussion in the survey was centered on how to limit our access to the Capitol. 38 questions on how to limit. How do we go about limiting the people's access to the Capitol? All right, folks. This is the beginning of my campaign. This is my this is my Monday morning radio show. We're getting a preview on Saturday, but I'm telling you what. We need to plan on a rally January 12th at the Capitol. We need to plan it right now. We need to start talking about it. We need to let every representative, every senator, everybody you know in the Republican Party, your SREC, everybody, you need to let them know that we will tolerate nothing less than opening up the People's House in January, period.
Right.
Period. Completely open. No temperature checks, none of this. If you want to go up there and you're concerned, you wear your mask. Wear your mask.
Right.
Wear your face shield, whatever. But there needs to be
wear gloves.
Enter or put a sign up that says enter at your own risk.
Yeah, exactly.
But if we get closed out of the Capitol in this next session, folks, it's the end. It is the end of the state of Texas. And I don't say that lightly. I am serious. If we get closed out, if we don't get to go testify, if they limit our access, if they say, okay, the first 200 people get to come in or whatever.
Yeah.
No, we will not accept that, and we should not accept that. And if you believe that we absolutely have an absolute right to redress our grievances with the government, if you believe that, and that is in the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, And in the Texas Constitution, in Article 1, it's reiterated again. If you believe that, and you tell me you do all the time, everybody, oh, I'm a strict constitutionalist. We need to see you at the Capitol on January 12th.
Yeah.
You need to go ahead and take that day off. Ask now.
Yeah.
Ask now. Tell your boss, January 12th. That's a Tuesday. By the way, it's my birthday too. Feel free to bring gifts and cake.
Okay.
Every couple of years, the first week of the session every 2 years is my birthday's right in the middle.
Yeah.
So anyway, lands right on my birthday this year. If we have complete access to the Capitol, then I'm already inviting everybody. That's a great day at the Capitol. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, it is.
It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
It's crazy. The parking's free on that day. The parking's
Wow.
free.
I never remember that.
The parking is free on the first day of session at the Capitol Visitors Center. Now, it fills up pretty early in the morning, but it's free that day. But anyway, we already were planning on taking several van loads of people up there,
Good.
the Fredericksburg Tea Party. We're already planning on that. But we need to also plan that if they've restricted our access, folks, everybody in the state of Texas that says you believe in the Constitution, and you go to Tea Party meetings, you call yourself a conservative, and you say, the Constitution, the right to bear arms, the right to peaceably assemble, the right to freedom of religion and freedom of the press. If you believe that, you need to have your butt up at the Capitol on January 12th.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we need to be there. We need to be there with the force of our convictions.
Yeah.
On January 12th, if they're going to limit our access, we need to have 5,000 people. We need to shut down Congress.
Yep.
Look, if the left can do this, and if homeless people can take over the streets of Austin and not get in trouble, if people can poop and crap and pee on the sidewalks in Austin and put tents up on the sidewalks in Austin, and if the liberals show up by the thousands, we show up by the hundreds.
Yeah.
That's the way it's
gotta
always
change.
been.
It's gotta
And I
change.
can't tell you how many rallies I've been to at the Capitol. And not events planned by me, but events planned by big organizations.
Right.
Texas Right to Life,
Yep.
Texas Values, all those people, they plan rallies. We get a couple of hundred people up there,
Yeah.
200. And we usually stretch it and try to call it 250 or 3 when we all know good and well it was barely 200. We need to be there by the thousands, and I'm going to start promoting this starting
Good.
Monday on my show because I had no idea that there was even a consideration. Now, I have not read the whole thing. You can actually you can access the entire survey with all the questions answered. I haven't even had time to do that. And so as soon as I'll do that over the weekend, that'll be my Monday show. But we need to plan on being at the Capitol on January 12th, one way or another. There are either and we need and if they're going to limit our access by any manner, then we need to let them know by the thousands that we will not stand for this. We will not tolerate a legislative session where the people do not have or have limited access. I don't care if they add Zoom to it. I don't care if they add things to a completely open Capitol.
Yeah.
That's great. If your representative or your senator says, look, I would rather do video conferences with you, or would you like to do a video chat with me? That's great, but add it to it. Do not lock your doors. Do not limit access to the Capitol. That is the people's house.
Yep.
And we must stand up with the convictions of our beliefs. We either believe this, we either believe in the Constitution, or we don't. And if you believe that the Constitution is the ultimate law of this land, then you've got till January 12th to get that figured out, what you're going to do. Design your sign, whatever it is. But if we have limited access at the Capitol on January 12th, we need to be there in the thousands.
Right now, the Capitol is basically shut down.
Yes, it's locked up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was because of the Red Guard, Antifa, and all that began doing stuff
Right.
to it and, defacing our Capitol, which that should never have been allowed to happen. The DPS or whoever should have kept them at bay and not allowed the destruction that they did do. Now, one of the things that has been discussed and talked about is the order, or that's not the correct word, but the contract tracing. contract that the governor did without authority from the legislative body. And I know that your representative, along with Senator Hall and I think 3 others,
Right.
have literally filed a lawsuit against our governor because he's acting beyond his capacity.
Absolutely. We're very proud of Representative Biederman and Senator Hall. And Senator Hall's not my senator, but he's a good friend.
Oh,
and he's a
yeah.
great guy. He's the best.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
absolutely the best. And I can't remember the other 3 off the top of my
Was
head.
Brian
but they-
Hughes one of them? And I think 2.
I'd have to look at
Yeah,
it.
I'd
But there
have
were
to look
5.
too.
And they
Yeah.
filed suit against the governor. I think it's great.
Yep.
I applaud. As soon as I saw that, I called Kyle and I said, "Woohoo! Way to go! Way
Yeah.
to go!" This is unfortunately, and one of the things I've learned over the last few years, and it started when we had issues with our local county judge, essentially issuing an unconstitutional order about it was 3.5 years ago, and in trying to fight that and getting straightened out, finally after a year, we had to go get a lawyer. And we have found out, and then when we had...
What was the issue?
The issue was posting of political signs. Our judge actually said, came out with an order that we couldn't put political signs on county property. Political signs on county property. We said, you can't do that. And he said, oh yes, I can, I'm the judge. Well, we dealt with it for, I guess it was a year. We couldn't do anything in the 2016 election about it, and so it all fell through there. We tried to follow up on it. We finally got a lawyer, and it took a lawyer and a suit in a federal court in New Orleans for them to finally say, fold, but get a load of this. They didn't say, okay, all right, we take it all back. They said, all right, fine, not political signs, no signs allowed on county land. Well, last time I checked, that county land belongs to the people. It belongs to us. That's our county land.
Yeah.
That is our land. We should, if I want to put up a Girl Scout bake sale sign on in the lawn in the front of the county courthouse, you ought to be able to do that, right? I mean, it's our property. It's our land. It belongs to us. It does not belong to the judge. The second case was more recently in our local election, where 2,000 ballots were cast, and it had to do with, it was a local election. There were about 2,000, about 10% of our, a little more than 10% of our local registered voters show up and vote. So it was about 2,000 people voted in the counting room, and we watch the counting. We're really good at that. As they're counting the 2,000 ballots, we start seeing ballots flipping over that do not have a judge's signature on the back. Every single ballot must have the judge's signature on the back. If it does not, then you don't have the guarantee of the chain of custody on that ballot.
That's right.
It doesn't exist. Now, I don't care that we saw it come out of the box. I don't care. It did not have that, and that makes it legally insufficient. Legally insufficient. Not just, oh, he forgot to sign it, but legally insufficient. All right? How many of those ballots did we find? 400 out of 2,000.
Wow.
400 out of 2,000.
Whoa.
So that is 20%. 20% of the ballots cast in that election. Listen, we started raising a fuss over that. One of the reasons we were watching was there was a referendum. Well, it failed. The referendum we were after failed, or referendum, or I can't remember if that's the right word.
Yeah.
But it failed, and it failed by more than 400 votes. And so when we said, look, this is not right, they said, well, look, even if you got all 400 of those votes that went your way, if that all went your way, you still would have lost. There were 180 missing ballots, 400 legally insufficient ballots.
Yeah, with only 2,000 ballots.
Out of
you would think you could keep up with those.
Ballots, you would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And so what happened there? So we're that night in the counting room. The first thing that happened was we know our rights as poll watchers. We've been doing this. We even train people to do it. We know how to poll watch. We know what the laws are. We know what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do in that counting room. So right before we went in,
Are all your votes paper?
they're all
here?
paper votes.
Okay,
all paper
no
votes.
electronic here.
Electronic
Okay,
voting.
all right.
So we got all the paper ballots, and so before we were allowed to enter that night, the election judge came out with a piece of paper that said, you have to sign this before you can come in. So we looked at the piece of paper, and the first thing it said was, you have to sit in the designated seat where we have told you to sit, or words to that effect, behind the tape on the ground. Well, we know Texas law. We know Texas law. Texas law says we have access to everything.
Yes,
We can
absolutely.
go anywhere in there we want to. We just can't physically get in their way. We can look over their shoulders, regardless of how uncomfortable it makes them feel. We have a right to see every screen that they have up that they're typing into. We have a right to look over at everything. We said, and there were other things on that. He wanted us to sign that. He said, I won't let you in if you don't sign it. And I said, well, you're asking us to give up rights that we know we have. And so, but we want in, so we're going to sign it. I said, but you will let us go around. Well, we'll see. So they called the Secretary of State.
Wow.
We call the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State calls the mayor. The mayor calls the lawyer. The lawyer then decides that, okay, the Secretary of State called me. You have to let them go wherever they want to go. So they allowed us to go. We ended up having either 5 or 6 different instances of that during the night. They would say, you can't do this. We would call the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State would call the lawyer. The lawyer would tell the mayor that you have to let them do that. They did that to us all night. We won every single one of them. Every single one of those we won because we know the law. Our county, our election judge doesn't know the law. The mayor or choosing to ignore it. The mayor doesn't know the law or is choosing to ignore it. Our county clerk choosing to ignore the law or doesn't know the law. At one point, and I can't remember what the issue was, but we brought up a point and the county judge said, take me to court.
Oh my.
That was his reply. So take me to
Hostile.
court. We're going to do it this way. If you don't like it, take me to court.
Hostile.
All right? So
Wow.
this is in our town. These are the kind of issues we've been dealing with. All of that started with Kyle Biederman suing the governor. What is our recourse when we see blatantly illegal things done? Our only recourse is to hire a lawyer. You have to have deep pockets to do that.
Yeah.
You have to have deep pockets to do that. And so the poor gal who had the ability to challenge us, because it was her thing on the ballot. It had to do with fluoridation in our water, and she had gotten it on the ballot, all the signatures, everything, gotten it on the ballot. So she has standing to sue the city on that. So yeah, we sued the city. We have 900 pages of evidence.
Wow.
We have, I can't remember how many affidavits from people that were part of it, witnesses there who saw, heard, who know what was going on. But folks, in Fredericksburg, a fifth, 20% of our local votes were, we don't know where they came from, because that chain of command is there. The paperwork, the signing of the judge's signature. And man, I'm sorry if that judge had listen, the judge's wife could have been in a car wreck, and I don't know. And he had to rush off to there could have been anything, a family emergency,
But
anything.
it does, let me ask, does he physically sign each one or does he use a stamp? Most of them use a stamp on them.
Some of them do a stamp and some of them sign it. It depends on the election judge for each precinct, depending on whether or not they've had a stamp made. But that must be there,
Yes.
period.
Right.
That's not up for discussion.
That is how you
It's-
prevent other people adding in
Yeah,
ballots.
yes. And so as we went through the recount, we said, but you can't count the 400 votes. They did anyway. And so our only recourse, again, all of this, when our elected officials completely ignore statutory law, right? Completely ignore that. And our only recourse is to hire a lawyer.
That's sad.
That's sad.
Yeah.
The Secretary of State should have been fighting with us all along on that. We should have had the Secretary of State in Fredericksburg in the face of our local officials, or someone from that office say, y'all can't do that. You
So-
can't do this.
Would this have been the 2018 election?
No,
Or
this
when?
was this was our election last in the fall,
Your prim-
last November. Our
So that was
constitutional election.
along with a local?
Yes, along with
Okay,
local
all right,
elections.
okay.
So it's out of hand now. I know you know Tony McDonald. He's I always love putting the Esquire on the end of his name. I had Tony McDonald Esquire on my radio program when all this was happening,
Yeah.
to ask him about it. And one of the interesting things he said, well, I asked him, I said, Tony, isn't there a quicker way? Can't we do something more than waiting for a year and a half?
Yeah.
Getting caught in the trap that Laura Presley was caught in.
Yep.
That by the time all the lawsuits went in her favor,
Yeah.
she won all of that, if I remember correctly. However, that term that she had ran for was already over.
Oh, yeah,
It was
totally.
already over. It was a
Yeah.
2-year term.
Yeah.
And by the time the Supreme Court finally said, you know, that election was fair or was not fair,
Yeah.
and you got screwed on this, by the time all that happened,
It was done.
the term was already over.
Yeah.
And I said, Tony, is there a quicker way we can deal with these things? And Tony said, Matt, you don't want it to move that fast.
Really?
He said,
Interesting
you
response.
do not want justice to move that fast. He said, because next time it'll be against you. He said, these things have to take time. You have to go through the process. He said, if you try to figure out a way to quickly get those guys, he said, next time you're
It'll be on
charged
the wrong
with
end.
something, that you're going to want your time. You're going to want your, your fair time. So I
Wow.
don't know what the answer is, but
We're greatly challenged all throughout Texas. I have documented an election over in Bell County where I interviewed almost every one of the election judges, and they talked about how they were not getting paper ballots to them. They only had Democrat ballots. And people stood in line for hours, and they still wouldn't get enough ballots, and all of that. That was several years ago. And then in the 2018, someone you mentioned called me in to video document, and 2 hours of documentation of some stuff that went on, and that is going to be used in some state lawsuits. It's tragic that we've got this situation, because as the pressure mounts and the side that really wants to turn things upside down is getting a more bold in what they're doing, it's very concerning whether we will have a true election or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I know. We're in scary times. I think we're at a tipping point, Kat. I think we're at a point where we need to choose sides, unfortunately, and
Totally.
we need to stand and fight for our side. Listen, we need
We
to
don't have-
stand for the Constitution.
We don't have any other option,
No, we don't.
because otherwise we will become, in a blink of an eye, a socialist country, which so much of even the mask wearing and this, that, and another is all, the beginning steps of what even went on in Germany, when Hitler came in and,
Right.
and Bonhoeffer was writing, warning, warning, and no one would
Yeah.
listen. Yeah.
And so it's really interesting, the people that, our Tea Party meetings, we started meeting again. Our first post-Kung flu meeting was 3 months ago.
Okay.
We had it outside in someone's backyard. The temperature
Great.
was still great.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of shade trees. We expected maybe 20 or 30 people. 60 and a half showed up. There was a brand new baby, 60 grown-ups and a brand new baby. So we had 60 and a half at that meeting, and we were just floored.
Wow, that's
And
great.
so the next meeting, we decided we're going to go inside. We had 89 at our next meeting.
That's fantastic for this area.
This last Thursday, this last week, we had 125 people show up at our meeting.
Oh, that is so encouraging to hear.
And so there is, I guess, until it hurts you personally, until you personally feel the pain as conservatives, and it's just people in general, as human in general, until the pain starts to hurt us personally, we're going to say, look, I got my business to run, I got my family, I got my church obligations, I have this, I have that. these things, it's hurting that guy over there, and yeah, it's hurting that guy over there, and gosh, I'm really sorry about my friend who owns the winery, but I need to get my mask and go to the grocery store. In Bonhoeffer, you mentioned Bonhoeffer, he was the one that said, and I always butcher this, but at first they came for the gypsies, and I wasn't a gypsy.
Yeah.
So I didn't say anything. Then they came for the trades union, and I wasn't in the trades union, so I didn't say anything. Folks, this is what is going on right
Exactly.
this very moment.
Yeah.
They may not be coming for you yet, but they are shutting all your friends down. They're shutting your ability to meet, to congregate, to peacefully assemble.
Even churches.
Even churches.
Jeez.
And listen,
Yeah.
I respect the right of a church to say, all right, our leadership got together and we're going to not meet in person for a while. I have no problem with that.
That's
right?
fine. The
I got no
church made the
problem. They
decision.
can make that decision. But when the state, and fortunately in Texas, the governor did not shut down churches. He made it clear that churches needed to stay open. But our local municipalities
But they
did.
limited
it too.
to where they couldn't, they couldn't even justify most of the churches to stay open because just the music ministry alone, when initially, there was a 10-person capacity. Well, that took the whole music ministry.
Yeah.
And so there couldn't be anyone else in the building.
Yeah.
And so they did go through. They were, and the governor didn't step in for a while initially.
Yeah.
With it, and
Well, when the governor basically did the reopening about a month ago, whatever, the 25% reopening, whatever that was, the governor did about a month ago. We went back our churches went back. We took out every other row. In my church, they have instead of pews, they're
Chairs.
comfy chairs,
Yeah.
and so we took out every other row. And asked people to, sit with your family or your group, or actually they said sit with anybody you want to.
Yeah.
But if someone wants space between their group, then allow them to have that. And if you want to wear a mask, wear one. If you don't, you don't. So we opened up. Well, a couple of weeks into that, there was a whole lot of nervousness about, we need to shut it down again. And if you recall, so there was a lot of nervousness. Our preacher. He said, I've had enough.
Yeah.
We're meeting.
Yeah.
We're going to open up.
The interesting thing for the churches that, when they couldn't meet and they had to strictly go online to do their messages, they had a larger audience online.
Yes.
And so many of the churches reported their income just blew up.
It has.
People, it's interesting. I think it's really hit some nerves, but like you're saying, it is so critical that people take a stance. Initially, people, typically don't want to get involved because I've got to protect my family, my business. I don't want to get blacklisted. I don't want this. I don't want that. But I think we're getting to a point where they're saying, by George, we've got to take a stand because we've lost it all now if we don't.
Yeah. And that's why I think January 12th is going to be important.
I totally agree.
We just need to start pushing this.
So what time do you want people to start showing up?
On January 12th?
Yeah, on your birthday.
On my birthday, the crack of dawn.
Yeah, that's when you can get the
crack of
parking in
dawn,
the
that's when
garage.
you get the parking. I will, what I usually do when I go to the Capitol, I have a dear friend that lives very, very close to the Capitol, so I always go up the night before. In order to even get a seat in the gallery under normal conditions, and we enjoy having a seat in the gallery, you really do have to be up there and in line at 7:30 in the morning. I mean, you do to get into under normal conditions. If you want a group to sit in the gallery, and we've been fortunate enough the last session. We had some people get there early, saved just enough seats, so that was the first time I'd sat in the gallery on opening day.
Wow.
And other times in the past, the 3 sessions before that, I was always in someone's office.
Yeah.
Either my senator's
that's a good
office-
place, though.
That's a good place. Your representative, your senator's office,
Yep.
It's a good place to be. Plus, they usually have snacks and coffee. And
it makes it nice, yeah.
And so...
Well, I know even the press, to be along the brass rail myself, I have to get there really early, tripod up,
Yeah.
park all my stuff under my tripod to mark my spot,
Yeah, yeah.
because you get
fills
pushed
up.
out, yeah.
So it all depends on what's going to happen, but it all depends on what they decide. If they decide open it up, everything's going to be okay, then it's going to be a great, awesome, fun day at the Capitol. Get there early. But if they're restricting us in any form or fashion, folks, we need to be there in the thousands. And don't fold and say, well, that's just a little bit of an intrusion. Matt,
No.
let's not worry about this. They're letting most of us in, and yeah, you got to check your temperature and wear a mask and a face shield and a hazmat. No.
Yeah.
Don't give in to this, folks. The Constitution either means what it means or the entire document is meaningless.
Yeah.
And we must now stand up for it, period. And we need to do it by the thousands. We need to be in Austin by the thousands on January 12th, period.
How will we know what the status is? Or how do we fight, this is my question. How do we put the pressure on them now so that they know how critical it is? Now, I know as far as our representatives, most of them are still in a race. They're on the
right.
ballot,
Absolutely.
Democrat, Republican.
That's right.
So, I feel like we need to put that pressure there. Senators, they're not necessarily on the ballot,
Yeah.
this particular one. But what do you recommend? What do we need to do?
I think we immediately need to contact your congressman, or your representative and your senator. Lieutenant Dan, you need to contact Lieutenant Dan Patrick. You need to contact the governor's office. Listen, I know that over the past few months, everything we've been sending to the governor and the lieutenant governor is being ignored. We all know that. But we still need to let them know. And again, don't be rude, don't be nasty, just be very clear that the People's House in Austin needs to be open with no restrictions. And put a sign up that says enter at your own risk. Just basically, there's 4 entrances, 4
Yeah.
signs that say enter at your own risk, period.
But have a
Done with-
wonderful time while you're here.
yeah. And so, but we need to make every phone call, now I'm very fortunate. Kyle Biederman, great representative. I have not spoken to him about this, but
He's gone for the weekend. Talk to him Monday.
Yeah, he's out. But what I'm saying is that he really is a constitutional conservative.
Yes.
And I think that if I were to sit down and if I were to call Kyle right now, I feel fairly positive that he would say, I'm for 100% open up, period.
Yep.
I could be wrong on that, but you need to call your representative.
Yeah.
You need to call your senator, and you need to tell them that this is not your average complaint, that we are deadly serious about this. That house
Should you use the
must
word deadly?
be, yeah, you don't use the word deadly.
Not today.
Not now, but we are serious as a heart attack on this. We are serious as a heart attack. The Capitol in Austin needs to be open, period. Completely open come January 12th, period. Just needs to be. And anything less than that, I think is going to be, it's the beginning of the end of our state, because we won't be able to get in and testify in front of committees. Only the right people
And they
will
won't
get
know
in.
what issues the people are really concerned about.
Right, and obviously the Republican
It'll all be
platform-
filtered.
Yeah, and obviously the platform has never meant anything to the Republicans up there in the past. So
Which they never got to in the convention
Yeah,
anyway.
we haven't finished that yet, but even if they abided by the platform, we would still want to go up there and have our voice. But this is beyond insane, and we need to act on the conviction. We need to act on our convictions as if we actually really believe that the Constitution means something.
Amen.
And that
So true.
there's just, it either means something or it means nothing at all. And if we don't stand and fight for it, we will not have it. And I was talking with my wife the other day. I think most of us kind of knew that this kind of day was coming, that what we're going through right now. I just did not ever think it was going to be in my lifetime. I did not ever think that we would have this move to socialism, that we would have this move to
But we were
tyranny.
asleep.
I
And
know.
we allowed them to reprogram and brainwash our children, our grandchildren, and it started even when we were in school.
Yes.
They had already begun rewriting our textbooks and
Oh, yeah.
history and all of that, and agendas were already playing a part, but we were oblivious. And my gosh, for the last 5 to 10 years, we've been very busy. We have all our toys. We have our little cell phones
That's right.
that we keep us busy all day long with Facebook and Twitter and da-da-da. And oh my gosh, and we're paying the price. And it's
You know,
big.
I think a lot of this started the acquiescence of the American people. It started on all the little things that we agreed with. Seatbelt laws.
Yeah.
Do you wear a seatbelt? I wear a seatbelt.
Yeah.
Do I wear it because it's a law? No, I wear it because it's a pretty smart thing to do.
Yep.
Right? It's a pretty smart thing to do.
Yep.
But when they passed a law and it said we're going to put you in jail, right? Whether it's a fine or whatever, we're going to punish you for not wearing a seatbelt. At that point in time, we should have said, no. You don't have really the right to do that. It's a great idea, but we should have stood up then.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We should
Very
have
good
stood
point.
up at helmet laws. I
Yeah.
ride a motorcycle every now and then.
Yeah.
Every time I get on a motorcycle, I'm gonna wear a helmet. Period. End of discussion. I'm gonna wear a
Yeah.
helmet.
Good. I'm glad to
I'm
hear
gonna
that.
wear a helmet. But when the state came along, when the government came along and said you must wear a helmet, you know, most people said, well, I don't want to ride a motorcycle, and the arguments I heard from the left, well, if they're not wearing a helmet and they have a wreck, it's the rest of us that pays for it, and blah blah blah. So we should have a helmet law. And we all went, okay, that's a good idea. Let's have a helmet law. What about smoking in restaurants? Do you smoke?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. I
No.
don't either. I don't either. But if I owned a restaurant and I wanted to have my customers allow them to smoke and want my employees allow them to smoke, it's my restaurant. It's
Yeah.
my building. If you don't smoke, don't come to my
That's
restaurant.
right. Yeah,
So when we
exactly.
said, okay, no smoking in any restaurants, most of us said, well, I don't smoke and I hate the smell, and I go into Denny's and you got that, or it was Sambo's back in the day. Remember Sambo's? Go into Sambo's and they got that smoking section back there, and it just leaks out into the rest. Like, so don't go there.
Yeah.
But we all said, oh, that's okay. We gotta. And so all these little encroachments on our life, and all
Exactly.
the ones you can't stand, all that you don't like the secondhand smoke. I agree. So don't go in a restaurant where they smoke. But don't tell the restaurant owner that you can't open a restaurant and allow people to smoke. In fact, the market will take care of that.
Yep.
A smoker's restaurant, if he doesn't get any customers, if he opens up and says, smokers welcome, right?
Yeah.
And nobody comes in, he's going to go out of business.
Yep.
Or he might say, you know, I had 200 people go to the front door and say, oh my God, they let them smoke. I'm not eating here.
Yeah.
You know, he might open the place up in a few months and air it all out, and, you know, and put no smoking sign up. The market will take care of these issues.
And
when it
that
comes
was
to
the
that.
beauty of the American dream and the
Was
idea. Yeah. And now it's regulated. It's we're giving so much of a leash that we can run on and operate within, and so many rules and regulations. And I mean, I don't know what it's like here, but in San Angelo, they've made so many ordinances and this and that they don't have the manpower to
Even
enforce any of them.
Yeah, they don't.
And
They
it's
don't.
just a waste. And
You know, there's a guy named Steve Dace who is has a radio program, podcasts, and there's something really interesting he says, and he says that we are. You've heard the saying that we're not a nation of men, we're a nation of laws, or a nation of laws, right? He takes that a step further and says we're not really a nation of laws, we're a nation of political willpower. We're a nation of political willpower. And he said we're learning that from the left right now. They had a law, they can't all go out and congregate, but they did. Their willpower, that overrode the law. Overrode the law.
Yeah,
Their
you're right.
willpower overrode the law. And so whatever we push back against, if there's a big enough pushback, we override that. Look at the marijuana laws that have come out across the country over the
Yeah.
years, right? That was pushed back against by everybody, and they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and then you get it in Colorado, and then you get it in California, you get it in Oregon. That's great. You want to do that in Oregon and Washington, that's great. There's people who want to do it in Texas.
Go visit
if they
them
want
in Colorado.
Yeah, and that's a personal thing.
Yeah.
I've had people ask me what I think about that, and my reply is always, it's a state's issue.
Yeah.
It's a state's issue. I don't like to gamble, but you can go gambling in Vegas. That's
Yeah.
great. If you want to get, that's great. They decided, Nevada decided we're going to let people gamble. That's a
Yeah.
state's issue. I don't have problems with states taking those things and
Yeah.
taking it to the people of the states. And if the people of Texas want legalized marijuana, we'll go through that process and we'll have it, right?
Yep.
But it is how much of this pushback, how much willpower do we have to push back against this? And so I think these we need to push back on this.
Yeah.
I think one of the key issues will be in the next session is rewriting, and I know our House members are already working on this, but rewriting the 1975 Texas Emergency Act. And so in that is where all the powers that Abbott's using right now.
Oh, okay.
Inside that bill, and I've already got it memorized, I've read inside that law, I've read it so many times. Everything the governor is doing is been okayed by that law, all right? The contract tracing, the contact tracing
Yeah.
contract,
Uh-huh.
you could argue on that one. But as far as the authority he has taken and the things he has said, we gave him that power in 1975.
Wow.
We need to take it back. In fact, the biggest complaint, and I think what will happen is the 30-day, he gets the 30 days for emergency power in that 1975 Texas Disaster Act. He can ad infinitum do 30 days at a time. What we need to do in that law, and I've already started talking to several reps about it and they agree with me, is we need to give him the 30 days and tell him, all right, if we have an emergency, you've got 30 days, but you can't renew it without calling a session. So we need to limit the governor's power on that. So if there's anything you want to start talking to your legislator about right now, we need to take a serious look at that 1975 Texas Disaster Act. I'm
going to have to pull that up. I haven't looked at that.
Yeah, pull that up. It's where all your locals get the authority. And if you read through it, it's very, very interesting. Now, in the opening part of it, it says it lists all the disasters. And among those are pandemics.
Wow.
And foreign invasions. So if Mexico decided to
Invade
Texas,
Yeah.
like with a military, not just, unofficially invade, but officially invade, then the governor has certain powers. But if you read through the entire law and you start looking at all the subsections or whatever you call it in it, you will realize that it was really designed, the spirit of that law was for hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes. That's what it was about.
Yeah.
Hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes. Those are the kind of disasters we have. That Disaster Act was set up and designed for when half of Houston is underwater and wiped out, right? Or for when Galveston, or if there's a tornado outbreak that goes through Lubbock.
What
all
had
right?
just happened that caused that 1975 act? Do you know?
No.
Because that would also lean toward why it was drafted that particular year, and that would, give you even more clarity on the mindset of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, there's big sections in it on debris cleanup. There's big sections
Wow,
on...
so yeah,
And
it
so
was-
really the whole thing, the spirit of the law was for hurricanes and tornadoes
We
and
probably had a big
floods.
hurricane,
Right,
something
we
in
probably had something
74.
right before that, exactly. And so that was the spirit of it. It's very clear. However, they have used this pandemic, even within that law and within our new Senate Bill 2, which you're probably aware of, there is an exception, and that was the one that was supposed to save us on taxes, right? Senate Bill 2, 2.5% cap or 3.5% cap on your local entities to raise their taxes. In that law, if your county is under an emergency act, you can go all the way up to the 8% without asking. But again, it is designed for when half your town's been wiped out by a flood.
Yeah.
Or taken out by a burst of tornadoes. In our Texas Constitution, there are rights that cannot under any condition be taken away. And that is Article 1 of the Texas Constitution is the Bill of Rights for Texas. In fact, it even says that, and I think in the first paragraph of Article 1 of the Texas Constitution. This is AKA the Bill of Rights. Inside there is a whole list of things that cannot under any conditions be taken away, period, right? They're in there. One of them is access to public beaches. That cannot ever be taken away. Inside the 1975 Texas Disaster Act is also language that says you have all these powers, but you cannot abrogate anything in Article 1 of the Texas Constitution. All right?
Interesting.
So let's just use the beaches. Well, we had in Corpus Christi, we had the local jurisdictions down there put up concrete barriers to keep people off the beaches. In Galveston, there were orders that nobody to go on the beach. That's not only is it our constitutional not to be ever, not even if a lot of people are sick, but not to be ever removed from us, is our right to ingress and egress from the beaches on the Gulf of Mexico, period. That's not to be taken away. Even underlined in the Texas Declaration Act. You can do these things, but you can't take that away. Who stopped the mayor of Galveston? Who stopped the authorities in Corpus Christi?
Do you think that part of that is the fact that people are not fully aware of what their rights are? That goes back to the education again, because I mean the kids aren't even taught civics anymore or any thing along that line, and so we have generations now that are clueless. They've never read the Constitution or the state constitution, or a lot of them don't even know we have a state pledge.
Right. I think a big chunk of it is the Constitution, but I think even a bigger part of it is we're just fat and happy.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're fat and happy. Everything is good. You don't make waves when life is good, right?
Yeah.
You don't make waves. And we have been living under conditions since I've been born, and since you and I were born.
Yeah.
We've
had a pretty good life.
Had a pretty good life.
But maybe now we understand.
It's a pretty good place to live, and so. Yeah. Okay, so you won't let me smoke in a restaurant, or I have to wear a helmet when I get on a motorcycle, or what? All right, But
we got conditioned to that.
We've gotten conditioned to all those little things. But everything is gone. We've had it great.
Maybe
and not only, but during that time, how many people from all over the world are doing everything they possibly can, legally and illegally, putting their own lives at risk to get into this country to be fat and happy like we are.
Yeah.
And so it is, yeah.
But maybe the words now have been, I think it's Benjamin Franklin that said, it's a republic if you can keep it. And that, I think he was addressing the fat and happy.
Yeah.
Where you don't realize what you're really losing.
Yeah.
We take it all for granted and don't realize. I mean, we always thought England and Australia, they're just like us.
Right.
No,
they're not.
No,
they're not.
No, and the United Kingdom has virtually fallen and is more Islamic now than Christian, and it's falling under Sharia law. It's gone. So
we are a one-of-a-kind experiment. Unfortunately, I believe right now we have close to half the country that would just as soon lose all those rights, that they really don't understand.
Yeah, what they're going to lose.
What they're going to lose.
Yeah.
And so education, and those of us who understand the Constitution, those of us who have studied it and taken the time, we know what this country was based upon and founded upon. And if we don't return to that, then we will look like Europe.
Yeah.
And you may think that sounds great, but I'm telling you, it's not.
No.
And having lived in Europe and having...
and it's not the same now as when you were there.
And even when I lived there. Yeah, it's not the same now.
No.
And my friends to this day who I'm still in touch with in Ireland, they live in Northern Ireland, so it's still part of the of UK, the United Kingdom. And what the restrictions they're under, They don't have a Bill of Rights that
Nope.
says you have the right to peaceably assemble.
No.
They don't have that. They do not have that. And so,
And a lot of
Where-
them cannot have a gun.
and
lot
most
of those
of them
countries.
can't have a gun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in fact, I've talked to several Irish people who came to Texas and were overjoyed at the ability just to go to a shooting range.
Yeah.
They were like,
Yeah. You can keep the gun, but just let me shoot
Yeah,
once.
just let me shoot it once. Yeah, and so, listen, I'm telling you, we are not like the rest of the world.
No.
We are not. And you don't want to be like the rest of the world. Our freedoms, this is one of a kind. This is the greatest experiment in politics ever in the history of the world. And we are not like other countries. And I think one of the sad things in all this COVID was this assumption by people that, well, you know, this country closed down, this country had mask mandates, this other country did this, they had quarantine, this other country did that. And it's like, well, we need to do that in this country. Nobody stopped and said, you can't do that here.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't do that here. What we've always operated under, this idea was that we have the freedom to make those choices, and if the government wants to give us information, that's great. But we get to make up our mind and decide how we want to freely live as free men. And listen, if you think it's okay to give up your rights to assemble, to give up your rights to speech, to give up your rights to... And by the way, clothing is considered a form of speech. The clothing you wear, which would include the mask on your face. There is a federal lawsuit someone in Washington is taking up right now that because somewhere in the past and I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but somewhere in the past there was a Supreme Court law that basically said that your clothing is a form of speech, and so someone can't tell you, and I don't remember what the law was.
Might have been back in the days when there was a lot of pushback of people taking the flag, the American flag, and making clothing.
Okay.
And, well, you know, and so that was a real controversial thing
Yeah.
then, because a lot of people thought that that was being detrimental to the flag instead of actually showing a form of patriotism. So two different mindsets again. You know, so
it
maybe,
could have
I don't
been.
know.
I don't know the history of it,
I
but
don't
anyway,
either.
based on that, forcing us to wear a face mask is forced speech. Don't know. Not a lawyer, but I heard the story and I was like, and all I did was tip my hat to the gentleman in Washington State. I'm positive now it was Washington State that brought that federal lawsuit.
Wow.
And so forcing you to wear a mask is forcing you to conduct certain speech. So there's so many little twists and turns on this, and it's going to be real interesting. One thing, talking about looking back on this time period, within the Texas 1975 Texas Declaration or Texas Emergency Act,
Yeah.
inside there is a provision for the governor, and it says 30 days. Within 30, I think it's within 30 days. Within 30 days of the end of the emergency period, the governor has to submit a written report on basically a report on how did it work, what did it do, was it good, was it
Interesting.
bad.
Did he do that?
Well, we're not done with our emergency time yet.
Oh, he
So,
keeps, yeah.
he keeps extending it. I don't even know where we are now. I think we're like into September sometime. I really, honestly, I don't know. I think we're good into September or something under emergency declarations. So we'll watch carefully. I don't know if hopefully someone in Governor Abbott's office has told him that you've got 30 days to get a written report out on this. I'm going to hold him to that.
Good.
And I think the rest of us do. Yeah, familiarize yourself. As soon as I give a code number, I'm going to have it wrong, but I think it is section 814 of Texas law. It's either 814 or 418.
Okay, we'll look at both.
It has its own section for the 1975 Emergency
Okay, great. Okay.
Act. It has its own entire section in the laws.
Okay.
And but there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. And sadly, a lot of power was given in that bill, given to your county judge and your city council members and your county commissioners. And I think that those rights, that needs to be written to limit them to 30 days without the people.
Yes, they've left the
gathering.
people out of the
They did.
mix, and that's what needs to be addressed, so. Well, we've got a lot of work to do,
We do.
and we say that every time. Who would have ever dreamed? But I think the number one thing we've got to do, besides keep shooing the fly,
Yes, I know.
they're gonna look on the video and they're gonna see all these hands waving, and there's one fly that really likes the camera and has been sitting on it, but hopefully he didn't sit on the inside where he's actually on the footage. But we've got to begin educating the public.
Yeah, we do.
They've got to know their rights, what really is their rights, and understand that that is what is at stake of being lost. And when those rights are lost, things will no longer be the same.
And you won't get them back.
No,
You won't get them back without bloodshed.
no.
They won't come back without bloodshed.
And we could have a
Yeah.
bloody time trying to keep them too.
Yeah, yeah, very,
So-
very, very sad.
Yeah.
Very, very, very sad, very scary. We just haven't, I use as an example, our local Republican Party, this area where we are right now has been so strong Republican for so long.
All the fences are lined with
Yeah,
Trump.
yeah, exactly.
Up and down the highways, it's cool.
And so our local Republican Party, and I've said this numerous times, has not needed to do anything for a long time. They really haven't.
Yeah.
Honest to God, they haven't needed to do, I'm not being critical on what they haven't done. They haven't needed to do anything, right?
Yeah.
Now they need to do something. Well, the problem is their muscles are all atrophied.
Yeah, that's true.
They've gotten out of practice. They don't even know how to do or what to do anymore because they haven't needed to do anything.
Yeah.
And so I don't blame them. I'm not being mean when I say that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to encourage them to say, look, I'm giving you a bye. You didn't need to do all that.
Yeah.
This was so, but we
But
got a lot
now
of
for
people-
our
but
kids
now- but
and for our
now-
grandkids,
Yes.
great-grandkids, we have got to wake up the
Yes.
generations behind us, or it won't be, and they are not operating with a base of information from what they got in school to understand what they're about to lose.
Yeah. And so,
Socialism
yeah.
isn't the answer.
And you know, they used to laugh at us and call us names when we talked about this cat, even as little as a year or two ago.
Yeah,
And I think everybody's now
Yeah.
seeing that
Yeah.
this is really where it's headed. And us giving in to each of the little steps. Okay, I'll wear a mask.
and I think
You
it's
know.
it's going to impact not only the Republican but the Democrat Party as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think that if there's Democrats that are going, what on earth has happened to my party? Those that are paying attention,
Right.
because of how far they've gone to. I don't even know if it. I think the left has left. I mean, it's gone.
Yeah.
And that maybe we just need a patriot party out of all the ashes of everything to rebirth what our founding fathers laid their lives down for.
Yeah.
So the blood they shed was not in vain.
Yeah.
Lord, help us wake up in time to save our country.
Yes. Please. Please.
Yeah.
Lots of prayers.
Yeah, so birthday party, January the 12th. My husband's birthday is the 11th, so we'll
Woo-hoo,
start
there
there.
you go.
And
All
then
right.
and then yours.
All right.
And so we'll go up on the 11th, celebrate John's, and then we'll do.
Okay, there we go.
And
And, so we'll be at the Capitol January 12th, regardless.
be early
Be early. Get
if
there
you
early.
want parking.
Yeah. And be ready to demand that they open the Capitol.
Yeah,
And let's hope they come to their senses so we don't have to do that.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Matt, thank you so much for your time on this Saturday afternoon when you
You're
could be
welcome.
doing honey-do projects and other great things. And but we need to continue this talk. We need to continue sharing and getting the word out on what people need to know.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for your time
you, Kate.
today.